Hello there, friends. It's Mr. E here, and today I would like to continue to talk about the Havoc endgame mode in Darktide. As you might have noticed, there has been a few videos on topics relating to that in the last week or so on the channel. Firstly, I hit a little bit of a fiery note when I was talking about rotten armor and what a miserable experience that has turned the Havoc grind into for many players. And then I took that a little bit further and discussed every possible mutator that you can get in your games. And this was intended not only as a tutorial guide for players who are just getting into this for the first time, but also a point to springboard into this discussion today. Because one of the things that I noticed a lot of you guys noticed was when I was going about giving the way to counterplay to many of these modifiers, what are called mutators in game terms, my counterplay was just bring bigger guns, just do more DPS, just kill harder, more AoE, etc. There really is no finesse, there's really no strategizing or anything cool or interesting to bring to counter a lot of these modifiers. It's just, hey, bring stuff that hits harder and hits more enemies at once. And that's your solution to literally 8 out of 10 of these are just solved by that alone. And that, I think, is a major failing of Havoc. It takes one of the potentially most interesting things about a game mode like this in that it can have these additional crazy modifiers and just turns it into yet another DPS check. And that was the main thing that I was harping on the Rotten Armor modifier for being bad for. It's just a DPS check that's tuned way too high for most players. It just immediately frags them out by absolutely choking them to death with a incredible amount of carapace armor with damage reduction stacked on top of that, and it's not fun for anybody involved. And then when you actually zoom out and look at a bigger picture, I'll actually put on the screen now the 10 modifiers that can appear in the Havoc game mode. You'll get 2 of them in any game. These 8 are all just damage reduction, more enemies with more health modifiers, right? They don't add any mechanics to the game other than enemies will have effectively more HP, or there's a new introduction of more enemies that are going to have more HP, and that's it, right? That is the complexity that Havoc really offers, and I think is such a wasted potential. So today I wanted to actually make a useful post about this, because it's one thing to complain and say, this isn't good, fix it. But, you know, that's a simple thing to do. Many people have done that. I would like to actually propose some alternate suggestions. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up here, just like I did to your mom last night, and we will talk from the ground up how I would change Havoc to be a more satisfying and rewarding endgame mode that people would actually want to engage with. So, with no further ado, let me plug the channel. You should definitely subscribe if you want to catch more Darktide content. And of course, we are coming back into the season where there'll be more updates for Darktide, so you can expect hot, fresh Sloptide news out of me as well. Okay, now that I have successfully subverted your expectations, let's actually begin talking about this. So I want to start first by addressing the single biggest issue facing Havoc, and this is so easy to address that I can't believe that they have fallen into this pitfall yet again. It is the fact that players do not want to participate in Havoc. We have yet again, in Vermintide we did it, and we have done it twice in Darktide already. We have yet again created another game mode that is separate from the core progression, the core game modes that people play in this game, and is trying to differentiate itself and setting itself aside in such a way that it becomes inaccessible, or players lock themselves out from playing it because they don't know what to expect. They are apprehensive about even getting into it because of the hurdles you must jump over. Think about it from a player's perspective, and perhaps you might even be this player, but a player who has never played a Havoc game, who has only just played the game default experience from level 1 to level 30, perhaps they've spent some time at Auric and doing Maelstroms. What is your experience up to that point? You run forward, you go to the mission board, you either select a mission on the board, or you press quick play, and then you press the big green play button. And 10 or 15 seconds later, it matches you, and it either throws you into the preloading, where you stand around with everybody else and chat, and then you load into the game, or it throws you directly into a game already in progress. This system is the expectation of play in Darktide. Now, if Havoc was a system in Vermintide 2, where the expectation was much more that you would match up with people in the lobby and then you would decide on your characters and stuff from there, then so be it. But Darktide, because the expectation has been set for players that you can just quick play into anything, that you can just press the button and go ahead and do it, then there is a massive psychological hurdle for players, not only a social barrier or an expectation of higher standards or excellence when you go into this special game mode that is supposed to be Havoc, but it's just more effort than it seems to be worth for many players. They look at a game mode like Havoc and they say, what is this realistically going to give me in terms of an experience? And it's just extra difficulty, it's extra punishment. There's some cool sort of cosmetics, a few cosmetics associated with it, but then you look at what is required of you. Oh, I have to go into Party Finder and I have to find 3 other people, or I have to join a group and get accepted to a group, and then people will scrutinize my build and they'll ask me to change to different classes. And then you say, fuck that, I'm going back to Auric. And that is what is keeping people from playing Havoc. And simply put, we cannot have this divide. We cannot have a separate game mode that is made for only a very small percentage of ultra committed players who have reached the end game and the normal game modes. These two need to be unified for one simple reason. There is not enough dev time to go around to develop Havoc for 5% or 10% of the total population of the game, if it's even that, I don't even know, and then to the detriment of the rest of the game, and vice versa, right? Every time they put in development work towards the main game, that stuff may or may not be reflected in Havoc at all. And so that is a huge problem in my book. Now, there are some very easy ways to remedy this, and the simplest one would be, let's go ahead and strip away a bunch of the trappings that are currently associated with Havoc. First of all, and I'm going to go ahead and start enumerating these on the screen. The first thing we are going to do in order to make Havoc more accessible and a better game mode is we are going to enable quick play. That is the first and best thing we can do. Enabling players to quick play into Havoc will give them the accessibility just to pick up and play a game. And you know what? Have Havoc quick play only match you with other people that are already quick playing, right? Therefore, when you are thrown into a random group, that group has already been assembled randomly. There is little to no expectation that you're going to be trying to build a coherent team. And for low to middle difficulties of Havoc, that doesn't matter, like almost at all. The difficulties up until 20 Havoc, which is halfway to the cap, are below Damnation difficulty. You will have a much harder time, a several-fold over harder time playing an Auric Maelstrom than you will playing those 1 to 19 Havocs. So why do we need to make players jump through these extra hoops of sitting in a lobby and a party finder in order to get into this game and treat it like it's such a big deal? Just allow players to quick play, and then once they reach a certain rank where, hey, dang, these randomly assembled teams aren't cutting it anymore, or maybe your team got close and you want to give it another shot, there is already a feature in the game for either partying up after the mission, or there's a feature for finding people in your previous game in the social menu and you can invite them to your group. You could just start using Party Finder because Party Finder is available all the time. You can use Party Finder to level your character, right? So at any time, you as a player can choose to engage with Party Finder if you are feeling the need to better tailor your party as you get into the higher difficulties. But it makes no sense to require it of all players, especially when you're playing above your league, right? If you end up being one of those players who is insanely skilled at the game and you want to be able to queue into a random Havoc 25 or a random Havoc 30 and just see what you get, just see if you can hack it there, more power to you, right? That should be available for you. You should not be required to engage with this silly, obtuse Party Finder system. So that is point 1. The next thing I would do is absolutely destroy the ranking system. The ranking system has got to go. Everyone has always hated the ranking system in Darktide. In fact, it is way better now than it was at release. It was so fucked up on release. Get this, if you were a Havoc 40 player and you played in a game with your friend who was Havoc 15, and you just happen to lose that game, or worse, you got disconnected because it's Darktide, and then lose that game as a result, you can get deranked. You would lose your Havoc 40 rank, and then you might have to spend hours grinding that back out, all because you just were slumming it up in a 15, having some fun. No, joke's on you. Fun is not allowed in Darktide. It is not allowed in Havoc, at least. So that system thankfully got the boot. And what we currently have is two things that are sort of a stopgap measure that stops this from being an issue. One is if you are playing on a lower rank than you have currently achieved, then you cannot be deranked. You will gain nothing from it, but you will lose nothing if you lose. Conversely, if you have a friend or an ally who is playing into your more difficult game and they are a lower rank, they might potentially gain a few levels at a time, but since it is a harder game, they have a less chance of winning, obviously, and if they will lose their own rank. And the second thing here is once you reach Havoc 40, you are liberated from this bullshit system and you cannot be ranked at all anymore. So, if you have not reached Havoc 40, that is the true enlightenment of Havoc. Once you reach Havoc 40 and you're like, holy shit, I don't have to worry about this stupid ass deranking thing anymore, and you can just play games until you beat them, that's good. That's the good stuff right there. That's what we want. So here's a novel idea. Why don't we just make that the system? Why isn't it just that you can play games until you beat them and there's no bullshit deranking or whatever? Hey, you can't beat the map? Just re-roll it and try again. What's the big deal with where we have to hold players down in order to keep them in this bracket? And I understand, I get what they were going for here, right? This is clearly, again, a Mythic Plus mechanic out of something like World of Warcraft. You know, we were just stealing their bad party finding system. Now we're going to steal their ranking system as well. In World of Warcraft, in Mythic Dungeons, you have a window from, I think it's 1 to 25 was the Mythic Dungeon Keystone ranks. And those Mythic Keystones, 25, no one is fucking doing that shit. It is literally insane up there, right? Only the sweatiest of teams are accomplishing that. The timers are too short. The expectations of gear and performance are too high. Most people are hanging out somewhere in the middle. And I think that is what they intended with the Havoc system. However, what it has become is that there is really an expectation for most players that they need to reach Havoc 40, and if they don't, they suck ass. And until you reach that point, it is hell. It is slogging up and down. And what does this do to you mentally as a player? The fact that you can be deranked, it puts you into this survival mode. It puts you into every game of Havoc being this like super serious life or death thing, because it literally is a big chunk of your life. If you derank on Havoc, say you're climbing and you're like Havoc 35, right? If you spend 2 hours losing 3 games back to back, and now you have to win 1 more to get it back, that was 2 hours of your life where you made effectively 0 progress towards your goal, right? How much did you enjoy that experience? I would gather probably fucking none. You would just be like, wow, I might as well have just put myself into a coma for 2 hours and just time traveled instead of doing that, because that literally did nothing for me. That was a waste of everyone's time. Instead of just having fun in the moment. What would the difference have been if they had removed the deranking system? Well, you would have lost 3 times. You would have still been on the same rank. And you know what? You could focus more on what actually went on in that game rather than stressing out about, oh my God, I'm going to get deranked if I lose this next one. And that is the major flaw of this derank system. As I said just a second ago, it makes players just so scared to lose their ranks that they are unwilling to try anything less than the meta. It forces players into this mentality of, I must only bring the best, there can be no substitute. How many times have you been a player who has like a 25 Havoc rank on your profile and you apply for a 20 rank game and you get denied and you're like, what the fuck? Why would you reject me? I'm 5 levels above you. Well, you know what that player is doing. That player is sitting there looking for everyone that has a 30 or above to apply to their game. They don't want anyone lower than that because that could be a liability. They might lose their rank, and therefore they might lose 2 hours of their fucking life, right? So just remove this deranking system, and then players can actually focus on enjoying the time they're having playing at that moment. Now, the downside to this is that if you remove the deranking system, obviously it's going to bias the distribution of players upwards, and so therefore players who are at Havoc 40 will have less of a achievement, right? They won't feel as proud about accomplishing Havoc 40 because most, well, not most, but many more people could just brute force it at that point. Well, that's where I have another solution. Uncap Havoc. Not just raise the cap. Don't just make it 60 or 80 or 100. Make it infinite. Because what this will do is it removes this pressure of there is an end goal in mind. I must reach 60. I must reach 80 or else I am not good. No. You are competing against yourself. You are setting your own standards, right? You are saying, shit, do I want to get with like 3 of my most autistic, in a good way, friends and try and grind for Havoc 100? Yes, I fucking do, right? That would be insane. You would literally strategize in Discords for hours trying to find these absolutely nuanced, crazy-ass strats in order to defeat the true absurdity that would be these difficulties. And in order to scale the game to those difficulties, it'd be pretty easy. There are already scaling modifiers that apply to ranks Havoc 1 to 40, such as increased enemy HP, increased enemy spawn rates, decreased player HP and toughness, right? Just scale those even further to the point where effectively, eventually, if you're on Havoc 9,999, every player has 1 toughness and 1 HP, every enemy instantly kills them and is running at 300% speed, and the spawns are pentupled, right? You could literally do that. It would be within the game's capability. Players would never reach it, or maybe they would. That would be up for them, the players who want to accomplish a challenge like that, to do. And this is something that players have been seeking for a long time. It is a personal accomplishment that can be shown to other players. It's a big portion of why players play Havoc, because they want that badge next to their name that says 40. That means you've won the game. That means you're good, finally, as you've got the 40 next to you there. But this is a big reason why whenever I suggest mods that should be integrated with the core gameplay, and I mention True Level, which is a tracker of your overall level progress on a character, it is overwhelmingly supported. People really want this to be a core feature, is because it shows your commitment to the game. It shows that you have been playing hard and you know what you're doing and you are invested and you have hours in the game. And that is why players like titles. They like, banners and all that sorts of stuff. It's something you can show to other players to show that you are one of the few, the proud, the nerds. And that would still be maintained if you uncapped it, because you would still get players who are like, damn, anything 60 up is impressive. But then the players who are 60 up would be like, damn, it's not that big until you're at 80 or whatever. And there would be a drive for those players who have that sort of drive to continue climbing and pushing every day. They would have fun with that literally infinitely. Meanwhile, conversely, what would happen for players at the low to medium, like what we'd call the normal ranges? Well, many more of them would be able to get to the levels for the penances, such as the pants and the true survivor, and they would be able to actually focus on improving and having fun in the current local rank that they're at. And I kind of make this akin to what they have in terms of ranking system in League of Legends. Like in League of Legends, we have, I say we, I don't really play the game anymore, but there's a bunch of different ranks, right? There's bronze, silver, gold, platinum, emerald, diamond, master, grandmaster, challenger, I believe. And so players can be in gold and they can know that challenger is out there, but then they can say, oh, well, I don't have to worry about being in challenger because I'm never going to fucking be in challenger, right? No one is going to be in challenger. There's no way I'm going to be good enough. I can just focus on advancing from gold 4 to gold 3. And then maybe I'll even make it gold 1. Hell, shit. Someday I may make it to platinum. I would be so proud. I would tell my parents if I made it to platinum. And that is so much more rewarding to have a sense of local satisfaction that you are climbing from Havoc 25 to 30 without the overarching pressure of, I am not good until I reach Havoc 40. There is an end goal in mind. I must grind games today, and if I made negative progress, if I lost a level on my way to Havoc 40, that is a true defeat, and I feel like dog shit for doing it. Remove that shit. Make it so that you can only suffer defeats in name only, right? You suffer defeat, you get set back, hey, try it again until you get it right. And just have the map randomized every time so players, it already does, right? The experience on the same map 2 times in a row is not the same. So you can't cheese it out. It's not like Weaves, right? Where you can just figure out the exact thing that's going to go on. It's going to be different every time. Hey, eventually you'll beat it and you'll feel good. And eventually you'll climb to what Havoc 40 is today and you'll feel good about that. And then maybe, just maybe, you'll feel incentivized to go beyond. but maybe not, right? And this would remove that pressure entirely. Now, the one sticky point this would raise that it could be very easily fixed is, what do you do about matching with other players? How the fuck would you find games if there are literally infinite ranks to play in? Just make it so that any player who is past a certain rank can just do a drop-down menu and select any rank they want to play at, right? If you have completed Havoc 40, I should be able to host a game that is Havoc 25 if I've completed a 40, right? I should just be able to scroll it down and say, I want to play a 25 right now and undertake this. Because there are so many days where I just want to record some quick gameplay footage. I want to win the game. I don't want to be stressing out and sweating about what the 40 is going to fucking bring me. I know my teammates aren't up to it. I want to have a good time and not a stressful time. And I just want to queue a 25. And instead, because I can't do that, I have to ask my teammates, does anyone have a 25? Does anyone have a 25? And guess what that's going to do? If they lose that game, they could get deranked, and now they've lost their rank. Now they've lost part of their time because I was just goofing around. Let me host any rank I want with no risk to anybody involved, and we'll have a good time. We'll be able to focus on the here and now, focus on the journey, not the destination. All right. That is everything in terms of ranking and getting players into the system. Really the meta stuff that I wanted to cover. Let's dig into the internals of the game, how the gameplay in Havoc actually functions, because this is a big factor too. So lastly, I think we need to focus on the core of the game itself, like the actual stuff that goes on during gameplay, because this is super lackluster in Havoc, I'm not gonna lie. The baseline of Havoc is fine. I will not be talking about that really at all today. If you're interested as to what the baseline of difficulty changes of Havoc are, I think I have a video on it, but you can certainly find it elsewhere. The Havoc mode has debuffs such as removing the protection to your health when your toughness is broken. Normally there's like kind of a barrier there that you take massively reduced damage. It also makes it so that the game director does not take it easy on you if you lose allies. It says, nah, fuck you, you let somebody die, you're still going to get 4 helpings of enemies, even though you only have 3 players to eat them all. And then additionally, there are, of course, those classic buffs to enemy attack speed, movement speed, the enemy health and numbers, and then debuffs to your own health and stats. And I think all that stuff is just fine. Those are sort of the stat changes and sort of difficulty scalings that we would expect and have come to expect as we scaled from Malice into Heresy into Damnation and beyond, right? So adding more elite enemies is very similar to how it feels to go from Damnation to Auric already. So all that can stay. What needs to change is the Mutators. Mutators, which I made a video on a couple days ago, and I can't remember if I mentioned it already, but they are super bland. They ultimately, I say like 8 or 9 out of 10 of them, come down to, hey, just kill these targets faster and harder. And then a couple of them actually require you to strategize and do something a little bit different, even if that little bit different thing is as simple as bringing a single zealot aura and not standing in goop. But like the best of them is killing those corrupted demon altars and actually having to strategize and push coherently with your team so you can eliminate the summoning rituals before they spawn that demon host. So that is sort of the standard, at least the best that the Darktide's Havoc mode can currently offer in order to model a new system of mutators around. And I think that I don't have too many ideas here in terms of how to change the system itself. I think that what they've got going where there's 2 random mutators is just fine. But what I think they should instead do is they should instead separate mutators into a couple of different groups. You should have mutators that are considered major mutators, very major negative mutators. Perhaps every mission only has one of these. So you can have a set of very detrimental effects, and then you can have a set of minor mutators. And what this would allow Fat Shark to do is look at their mutator list and say, shit, something like rotten armor, that's definitely a major mutator. We should not be also hitting them with pink, which is also a major mutator, right? Those 2 things together are too much. Let's hit them with a big one and then a little one, and that will be enough. And obviously rotten armor would be yeeted into the fucking sun. I wouldn't actually be in the game. The mutators that I have designed are all 100% my ideas, and I certainly didn't draw inspiration from anywhere. But I mean, say hypothetically you might have noticed that I did draw inspiration from somewhere. Comment it down below. See if you can figure out where I might have cribbed some of these ideas from. I'll give you a hint. I have actually drawn ideas from 1, 2, 3, 4 different sources, and 2 of them are in the same game. Okay, so let's begin here with some mutator ideas, and it's up to you to decide whether or not these would be major or minor. That was just a side point. And additionally, I also think there should be some that are like double-edged swords, where it gives you a buff and a nerf, but I didn't actually cover any of those. But my first idea, enemies take less damage when not staggered and more when staggered. So this would like actually give a reason to bring stagger heroes to the team, to bring your ogre and your arbites, because they can effectively give skull crusher and soften them up to everybody on the team by staggering. Very useful to have somebody who can actually like crowd control as their main feature in that case. Damage over time effects is massively reduced. This would obviously be a major modifier, right? This would nerf a ton of builds. And this is where I actually want to make a little bit of a sidebar here and say that one of the major flaws in Darktide's design, or rather in Fat Shark's design of the Havoc game mode, is that I think they were scared to challenge players too much. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. I think that they made every modifier pretty much just a DPS check because they didn't want to require players or expect players to bring a diverse set of builds. They were like, okay, well, let's just make them a harder version of the normal stuff because players might just be rocking one or two builds and not have the diversity in weapons and stuff required to task it if we did something like nerfing the fuck out of damage over time. What if you were literally a flame staff one trick all the way from rank 1 to rank 30, and then you get hit with that in one of your early Havoc levels? Damn, you're fucked. How terrible. Except for, it's Havoc. It's literally the end game mode. The expectation of players who are engaging in the end game mode should be that they are able to experience all facets of the game. They should be playing in all facets of the game. And having nerfs like this, having mutators show up that just say, no, fuck you, you're not using grenades this game, as will be in my list here in a second, will cause players to have to actually diversify their builds and try different strategies and try different stuff out. This is the way that effective and clever design of an endgame mode like this can actually encourage more diversity, can encourage players to try more things rather than pigeonholing them into going with the 3 or 4 things that work across the whole game. And that is the ingenuity that you could be pushing players to explore, to get better and to look into how to build a different character that can take on this sort of challenge. Just a little bit of sidebar there. So that's one. We could also have 25% of specialists becoming monsters. There is a current 10% conversion of specialists that spawn, they turn into weakened monsters. Make it 25%, right? Now we have a ton of monsters. You better bring your best fucking boss killing kit for this one, guys. Enemies ignore the first instance of damage. Just automatically like making it so that single shot weapons, nah, you're straight the fuck out of here. Rumbler, shit, you better shoot 2 shots, buddy, right? That sort of stuff would be massive for increasing the durability of hordes or making snipers and stuff hard to counter. Make it very visible on characters enemies when they have it, of course. But yeah, giving them that incidence of protection could change the dynamic quite a lot. Enemies take increased damage at close range, heavily reduced at long range. So we would be again nerfing long range builds that are intending to stand way the fuck back and deal all their damage and not ever get up close and personal, instead prioritizing people to go, hey, maybe an all melee team for this Havoc mode. And you could even run the converse. You could have the inverse in it. Again, another advantage of removing the deranking and ranking up system and the end cap of 40 is we no longer have to be worried about like, oh shit, that guy got all easy modifiers when he climbed to 40. You know what? So what if you did? Because like, yeah, you might get an easy modifier on this game, but I guarantee you, like at some point it won't matter because the games are going to get hard enough by default that whatever mutators you have on top are just going to essentially be flavor. You can just, it won't be so like competitive. Like, oh man, you just only got to Havoc 40 because you did it on a week with no rotten armor. Who the fuck cares? Blitzes are not available. Simple, elegant, right? No grenades. Fuck you, crack grenade veterans. Choose something else. Mission has a timer that is extended only by kills and completing objectives. So either you get stuck up on a horde and you have to blast through it and you're getting timer back from that, or you complete the objective as fast as possible. Putting a ticking timer a la Rolling Steel would be very cool in Havoc and a real change of pace, pun intended, from the slow dungeon crawl that it ends up being a lot of times. Every barrel is active and supercharged. I think this was an event mutator before. Not to spoil that. That was not. That was an idea that was legitimately my own, and I didn't steal from anywhere except for, I guess, this game. Just make every barrel. Maybe even the barrels respawn after a minute or so you're like never quite sure when one's gonna blow up in your ass. Your team is pursued by a demon host that will pick the slowest player and attack them until it is killed and chased away, and then it'll respawn. Huh. Wonder where I got that idea from, right? Enemies not visible until they are at close range, and once they're at close range, you can now actually damage them. At long range, they take massively reduced, like 75% reduced damage, so it's not even worth shooting them, and then they emerge out of like a fog or a mist or a pox gas, and then they are there on you. So you need to prioritize for close range reaction. Pox gas covers the map, and you carry a sensor item with your team that clears it. So you've got like a deployable like med kit that you just kind of carry around. It's like an air purifier that Hadron provides you, and she just chides you now and then to stay near the sensor. Sorry, the air purifier. I don't know why I'm calling it a sensor. That's not in any other games. Yeah, you may only use your melee weapon. Simple, elegant, would fuck tons of builds, but hey, that's the goal here, right? We want to be fucking over builds. We want to be forcing players to try to get creative, to have to counter these things. That's what makes them interesting, is you have to actually counter what the enemies are doing, or what the mutators are doing. There is no healing, but you cannot die to losing wounds. So you are incentivized. You can play martyrdom like a crazy motherfucker out here, but you need to be really careful because you're never going to be any higher than that on HP. You can only get back up with that tiny sliver that you get when you're revived by your peers. And yeah, you'll be revived like 25% and never any more than that. So you need to be really careful because you're going to be on low health the rest of the game if you lose that health. Damage is shared to your nearest ally. So be careful, don't stand next to that psyker. Or do, if you want to fucking grieve him. On death, enemies spawn a spore that explodes. This idea, in fact, I would actually take this and replace the green goop, right? I would replace the green ground corrupted goop that just occupies the floor for 15 straight seconds, and instead replace it with this delayed gas bomb, basically like a twins tox mine, where you have to stand back for 5 seconds or 3 seconds or so after you kill that enemy, because they're about to explode in a big puff of gas and it will hurt you and corrupt you. Smaller enemies burst from larger ones. So you kill a burgle, well, guess what? That burgle actually swallowed 2 maulers. Here they come, or two mutants. Actually, would be even more fun. Or like that, maybe that crusher, he was actually just 2 ragers in a trench coat. And surprise, you're getting ganged on by 2 carapace ragers now. Be careful. Be careful. Don't kill too many. Don't kill a pack rat. You never know what might happen. Friendly fire is enabled on ranged and AoE attacks. Fuck you, Flamestaff. Fuck you, Rumbler. Okay, you better hope that that the arbites doesn't bring his shotgun and turn around and dome you for shooting that Rumbler shot into his bag. Okay, because we know who would win with his shotguns are super fucking deadly when that shit is enabled. But I think that would be a great nerf to these AoE explode the map builds that are so prevalent. Radio gunners are present and will call in reinforcements. Remember radio gunners from that event like 8 years ago that just vanished from the game? That was a cool potential modifier that could have been in Havoc, where you've just got this obnoxious enemy who hides from your view and summons in endless waves of specials and stuff, and you gotta actually push and rout him out of his cover and kill him, or else he's just gonna make your life hell. What a great task for players to engage in. Certain enemies don't die immediately, but instead 5 seconds after they're killed. So they get like a death prevention, and basically what this means is, again, crowd control here, super valuable. Because you kill this enemy, sure, and you know what they say, the best form of crowd control is death, unless the enemy doesn't die when you kill them, and they get 5 seconds now where you can't kill them. A crusher that is invincible for 5 seconds after he's killed is immediately, like, crack grenades are no longer the be-all end-all there, right? He still gets to spend 5 seconds dropping atomic fucking overheads on you. You better bring something to stagger his ass with and stop him from doing that while he's waiting to permanently die. And then my final idea here, every ultimate has a 2-minute cooldown, and CDR, cooldown reduction, has no effect. So I think this would be the great equalizer that would actually kind of level the playing field. You have these really powerful ults that you might still legitimately bring veteran voice of command if it had a 2-minute cooldown. it's pretty good, right? You would definitely bring something like Zealot Chorus at a 1 minute cooldown, longer cooldown abilities that are more impactful, that might not be as good in the game right now. Those would be more incentivized. And these shorter cooldown abilities that a lot of times are pretty crazy good, those would be disincentivized because, like, yeah, you can't spam them anymore. So you're going to have to change your builds and play into this. And imagine taking fights in a very Vermintide 2-esque way where your ultimate is a massive, massive resource, right? You want to save that shit for a very pivotal moment because they have long cooldowns in that game. But anyway, there are my ideas. Now, hopefully you guys were able to, first of all, figure out where I drew those ideas from. Comment that down below and then edit it to prove that you're right. But if you picked out that I was drawing inspiration from Vermintide 2, congratulations, you're the beginner level. You figured out that Vermintide 2 Chaos Waste has like a lot of these, right? Chaos Waste did it so right. I know those things are obnoxious in Chaos Waste, like the sensor, carrying around the sensor that cleanses the pox gas and having the Nurgle demon follow you, but at least they're interesting. They change the way that you play fundamentally, and they make you stick tight together as a team and stay near the sensor. They make you not have any stragglers on the team because one person get picked off by the life leeches following you. You have to stand back when you kill enemies. You can't just go gung-ho on them with melee because they're going to explode, but then after they explode, it's clear to go forward, right? That's a Khorne modifier. In addition, there's a Tzeentch modifier in there that shares that damage to your nearest ally. There's a ton they could have drawn from Chaos Waste, and it boggles the mind how they got these modifiers, these cool modifiers, well, interesting modifiers to say the least, so right in Chaos Waste, and then fumbled it when it came to making it similar in Havoc. Now, that was easy to pick out, but did you pick out other Vermintide 2 modifiers? Perhaps you picked out one in particular if you are a player of a Vermintide 2 Chaos Waste mod called Peregrinaje. That would be a pretty deep fucking cut if you picked that out. But Peregrinaje, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, is a expansion to Chaos Waste, and it has the modifier here of making enemies cloaked until they get close to you. So basically the enemies are invisible or nearly invisible. They look like wisps until they get into very close range to you, and then, only then, can you actually attack them. And this means that you have to play tight with your allies because a whole massive ass horde, including bosses and stuff, can get on your ass without you being able to do anything to them until they're within 20 feet of you. And that is a huge game turner. One that I didn't include in this that I think is very fun in Peregrinaje is there is a chance for enemies' sizes to be randomized. So you could have a crusher, or sorry, you could have a poxwalker that's the size of a chaos spawn, or you could have a crusher that's the size of a poxwalker, right? So it scales their attacks accordingly. So watch out for the chaos spawn size mutant or dog that's trying to get you. That would absolutely look fucked cosmetically in Darktide, but it would be very funny. So that was the two that were from Vermintide. Now, Space Marine 2 heads, Siege Mode was inspiration for a lot of these as well. Siege Mode, also an inspiration for uncapping Havoc. Siege Mode has no cap. You can go as far as you want, but there's a timer. You temporally cannot accomplish level infinity, right? And elite players will push themselves higher and higher, trying to be more efficient and accomplish these levels. But at some point, you literally can't do it anymore. And therefore, there is not this drive to accomplish the absolute pinnacle. There is no end goal that you're running towards. Just be as good as you can be, right? Accomplish what you can, get the resources and experience out of it that you can, and feel satisfied in doing so. And challenge yourself if you feel like challenging yourself is what you want to do. But additionally, having those modifiers like the timer on the mission that you can all extend by doing objectives and getting kills is part of that. Is part of Siege Mode. Is part of the what do they call them? The hard mode, like additional modifiers. I forget. It's something that I'm forgetting right now. Having the friendly fire enabled with the ranged and AoE attacks in there. Having the no healing, but you cannot die to wounds is from Space Marine 2, so that's good as well. And the final thing that I drew inspiration from here was Gunfire Reborn, a roguelike that I like a lot and I've covered on this channel before, so perhaps you were able to pick that out. But anyway, I digress. So in essence, guys, I think if Fatshark were to address these issues, if they were to remove this ranking system that causes so much FOMO and just anxiety, like it's literally ladder anxiety, like from StarCraft, where players don't want to play for fear of losing their rank unless they're absolutely locked in that day, you know. That will incentivize more people to play more casually, give them quick play so they can play more casually, and that is going to increase the number of people playing. And more people playing a mode means more people are interested in engaging with it and having fun, and therefore more people are going to filter in and make it the assumed end game of Darktide. And then you can actually allocate resources to developing this and not feel like it's only for a small percentage of the player base. Make it so that this is accessible and a game mode that people want to play that differentiates itself from normal stuff by being kind of a wacky wild card. And it's okay if we have you know, some easier modifiers and some harder modifiers. It's okay if you get an easy mission because, again, there's no guaranteed end game. There's no pressure that you will win the game if you reach Havoc 40 or whatever, right? It's just a measure of your own success against these crazy games. And yeah, all this stuff together I think would be a massive overhaul to the system, and I would actually enjoy playing it again, because for right now, I am much more enjoying doing my permadeath nonsense 0 to hero stuff, which a video will be coming out for soon. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate all of those of you guys who made it this far. I mean, you are truly troopers for making it through these 40-minute videos with me. I know I'm super boring to listen to sometimes, but hopefully you got a good nap in the process. Maybe did some dishes or something. Again, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.